Welcome, everyone, to the Dick Giroux Show. Thank you very much for coming in. And I do like to hear from you. And once in a while, I hear somebody say, "Oh, I watched your show the other day." I like to hear those things. I have a very interesting, I'm going to say, young lady. Her name is Jen Fulmer, retired colonel of the Air Force. Thanks for coming, Jen.
Thanks, Dick. Appreciate it.
Jen is doing something tremendous. She retired, but yet she's not retired. For some reason, you're still moving around. I mean, like I called her the other day and you were in Washington, D.C. Well, you're not a politician.
Nope.
So there's some info there. Are you still getting hops from the Air Force?
No, I'm not. I don't rate those.
Jen, I'm impressed on the plane that you used to fly. How many years?
I was in the Air Force for 24 years, and I flew the B-1 for 20, with a couple assignments in there that were desk jobs, but 20 years pretty much.
20 years? Wow, that is big. And if you haven't seen a B-1, you need to see one because it looks like a fighter. It really does. Oh my gosh, that thing is awesome. And it goes how fast?
1.2 Mach, faster than the speed of sound.
And you have to wear a mask?
You wear a helmet and a mask when you take off, when you land, or when you're employing in combat.
Otherwise, you don't have to?
Right.
That's in case something happens, you hit the button.
In case you have to eject.
And you do your own flight.
That's right. Ideally, that doesn't happen, though.
Now, did in the train, I'm sorry, I just got to ask.
That's okay.
Did you have to practice how to use a parachute and come down in one?
We didn't actually jump out of an airplane.
Okay.
We learned how to wear all the equipment. We learned how to do a parachute landing fall, and then we actually went up on a like a parasail behind a truck.
Oh.
So they bring you behind the truck, and then they cut the rope, and then you just do sort of the
Learn how to
last
land.
part of the landing to learn how to land.
That's good. Well, yeah, you should.
Yeah, that's
do
the
that.
critical part where most people get injured. So.
And I take it you're okay. You didn't get injured or nothing.
No. And I never had to eject, which is a bonus.
Well, that's even better. And the plane is still flying.
The plane is still flying. Absolutely.
Now, how many people in the plane?
4 people. There's 2 pilots. They sit up front, and then 2 weapons systems officers. The weapons systems officers are dual seat qualified. So one of them will run our targeting pod, which is like a big camera that hangs off the side of the airplane that allows us to work with the troops on the ground during close air support and actually see the target and pass the image of the target to the guy on the ground so he sees what we're looking at. And then there's also a defensive side where if we are engaged in some kind of surface-to-air fire or enemy anti-aircraft artillery or something else where we have chaff and flares and a defensive countermeasure capability.
Those flares make whatever is coming at you go in that direction to those flares?
Theoretically, yes. Theoretically,
I don't know if I said it right.
Well, theoretically, if you're getting a missile shot at you that is an infrared missile, i.e. a heat-seeking missile that's going towards your engines,
right.
The flares are in such a range, a micron range, where that missile ideally, theoretically, will go towards the flare and miss the airplane, and that's the theory behind it.
So that flare is throwing a lot of heat.
It is throwing a lot of heat. Mm-hmm.
That's interesting. Mm-hmm. Yeah?
Yeah. Well, it's nice to have them.
It is, yeah. Amazing. And you said the things where the communication with the ground force, that is something too, that you can send them a picture of what you're looking at. Well,
they have a capability called rover capability.
Are we supposed to talk about it?
Yeah, you can.
Okay.
Yeah, so we work with Joint Terminal Attack Controllers, which are called JTACs, and that's the person of all different services do this. We have a large Air Force contingent, and they are embedded with Army and Marine Corps and other Special Forces units on the ground, and they're the ones who talk to the airplanes, who call in the airstrikes or whatever kind of close air support that we need. Well, those guys, a lot of them have what's called a ruggedized laptop computer, basically. And so when we're looking at a target with our targeting pod, we can send them a particular code, and they can
To make sure that's the target.
well, they can put in that code so they can see the picture of what we're looking at. And they can
Okay.
actually see us move our little crosshairs onto a particular target.
Yeah.
And they can tell us, yes, that's a target,
That's
or
the
no,
one.
move your crosshairs, a little to
Oh,
the left
really?
or whatever. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's a great capability.
It sure is.
Now, they don't all carry that. It all depends on the situation on the ground. But yeah, it is a great capability.
Oh my gosh. You can't miss.
Well, ideally, no.
Oh, ideally. When somebody goes blind, yeah. Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, it is.
And you did that for all those years?
No, I did that primarily after 9/11 until
Okay.
2014 was my last mission.
Wow. Okay. 2014. And you retired
In September of 2015.
2015. Amazing. You had quite a life. Really quite something, I think.
It was wonderful. I wouldn't trade a minute of it.
Yeah.
Wouldn't trade a minute of it.
That's how I feel. What I used to do. What did I do? I performed.
Yeah. Well, that's an important thing for the troops. I'm telling you what.
For the troops.
Absolutely.
And for people. I mean,
Yep.
in Europe, it was fantastic. The
Yep.
places I've been. Oh my gosh. And the things that I've seen. I even met the Russians.
Did you?
Oh yeah. I seen things that people, the paintings of a woman was still alive, they said, that did a depiction of the sufferings the people went through. It was on a pole in the center of this square, in town, not in town, in an apartment complex area.
Were you in Russia at the time?
No, I was in East Germany.
Ah, okay.
Okay, this was when the wall came, when everything came down. Then the embassy called and says, we need a group to go to East Germany.
Okay.
You know which group went?
No.
Dixieland group.
Did it? That's perfect.
And when
A
we
little
went,
freedom. That
Yeah.
is, yep.
Dixieland
Symbolic.
music, they loved it.
Yeah.
They loved anything we did because when we did the big band thing, we did big band jazz.
Right.
And we played Glenn Miller music. That's what they wanted. These people didn't get a chance to enjoy it in
Right.
the war. So when we come in and start playing that, oh my gosh. Or you see, they have the battle of the bands, and they'd have different bands from different countries.
Yeah.
And we go there, and the Russian play. Everybody played really well, okay?
Yeah.
But Russians were playing one time, and a German comes to me, he says, Glenn Miller better, he says.
And you said, yeah, I know.
Oh, yeah, no, I just went along, And then the Russians, their stuff wasn't that great. So they wanted to come over. They trade anything to get what we had. A hat, anything, things they're wearing, and they
Yeah.
oh my gosh, there was something else. Yeah, it's interesting how people are from different countries, especially Russia is. And then I met a Russian officer with his wife and had his picture with me.
That's pretty neat.
Yeah.
In Berlin. In East Berlin.
No, this was in this city. I can't remember the name, but he had his wife with all these other Russian officers and everything, and he came over and on either side of me have their picture. I was holding a saxophone. And imagine that.
That's great.
It was really. And the guy they had their own troupe. Their people were doing, like the old days, gypsy stuff.
Yeah.
The women are dressed in gypsy, beautiful outfits, and doing the dances and the singing and everything.
Yeah.
It was great. What a show. I mean, they brought something really good,
Yeah.
And the guy who did the master ceremonies spoke English, so he came and talked with me.
Yeah.
It was nice.
Well, you've seen a lot.
I did.
You were there at a critical time in history, too.
I was.
Not many people can say that. That's amazing.
Yeah, it is. It was. And I don't have pictures of things I saw that I could describe. I'll tell you later. I'm talking too much about my things.
Oh, it's
We're
interesting.
going to talk about you. What now? For flying, you had to go through a training. What did you end up training on?
Everybody goes through pilot training, an initial flying training. And so when I went through pilot training, I went for 6 months. I flew what's called the T-37. It's a little jet with seats that are side by side. Doesn't have a whole lot of power. Doesn't have a whole lot of great instruments. I didn't really enjoy flying that airplane that much.
Okay.
But then the next 6 months, I flew what's called the T-38, which has tandem seating, one seat in front of the other, two seats, and more maneuverable, a little bit better power, and really enjoyed flying that airplane.
That might be quite a feeling, having all that power behind you. You've got to be feeling that.
Yeah, on takeoff you do in that airplane. The B-1 especially, you feel a lot. Yeah,
oh,
absolutely.
yeah, you had to. I mean, what a feeling you have maneuvering all that power. Oh, my gosh.
It's a good airplane. It's been the workhorse. It's been the workhorse of the last 14 years, really. Yeah, the B-1 has been routinely over flying missions over Afghanistan and during the 2000s, Iraq as well, 24/7, 365 since 2005. The B-1 just came home in the last year to get a major upgrade done, but it had been going nonstop, doing amazing things.
You think there may be another one coming up?
Another B-1?
Well, yeah, something different.
There's actually, the long-range strike bomber is going to be coming out. The award was just given to Northrop Grumman. It's called the B-21. Nothing else is being talked about the airplane right now,
no,
but that will be the next bomber
And
that comes out.
it will be the same amount of people in that, do you know? You don't know, yeah. I would think so, because all the things you have to do while you're up there.
Well, it all depends on what technology is and so forth. But, but no, all the details of that program still remain classified at this point.
Sure.
So,
Absolutely.
but there is a B-21 coming out.
Wow.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. You think you get to see it?
I hope so.
All right, we're going to change.
So.
We're going to change subject now.
Yeah.
Let's talk about what you're doing now for veterans,
I would love to talk about it.
and when you start doing it for them.
Okay. Well, Boots to Roots was started in 2014 by Dave Hickey. He's the founder. Dave Hickey is an old flying buddy of mine. I like to say he raised me from a pup in the B-1 when I first came as a brand new co-pilot. Yep, Dave was one of the instructor weapon systems officers.
Is he around here?
He's in West Gardner, Maine.
Wow.
Yep, and then he was one of my instructors at one of the schools I went to, and I've known him for almost 20 years. And he's one of the guys that I respect the most in this world.
Yeah.
He's from West Gardner, Maine. He grew up in West Gardner. He came back to West Gardner after he retired. And he retired as a colonel after 23 years. And he's from West Gardner. He stayed connected to his town, to his state while he was gone because he had family there. And he came back and ran into some roadblocks when he was trying to find employment and sort of trying to reintegrate into the community. In fact, he had one interview with an employer who said, well, I can't see how you couldn't have PTSD with all those deployments.
Wow.
And he started talking to a couple friends of his and thinking, we need to do this better. I've, from Maine, stayed connected to Maine, and I'm still sort of having that reintegration trouble and trouble finding a good job, a good paying job. And so he said, we need to do better. And so he wanted to try to be part of the solution. And so he started out in 2014 with his co-founder friend of his, John Manganello, and the two of them were helping folks by word of mouth for almost 2 years now. And they helped about 15 folks who they heard about from a friend in town, or they did WMTW did a news piece last January on Boots to Roots, so they heard from a couple folks from that as well. But folks who had recently transitioned from all different services, they helped them, sat down with them, and met them at first. And Dave's big point that he likes to make is he wants to be able to have a personal relationship with these folks. sort of that they have a teammate that they can sit down with when they come back. And so
you want to meet with them.
exactly. If they're
Yeah.
in Maine already,
Right.
then sit down, break bread with them.
Right.
You know,
Yep.
I'm gonna sit down with you, Dick, and we meet for the first time, and we're gonna have a meal and get to know each other a little bit, and then I'll ask you what your dream is. You know, what's your dream? What skills do you have? What are you interested in? What are the things you like to do in the service? What do you know you don't want to do? You know, where do you think you want to live? What kind of salary you think that could realistically sustain you? And then, oh, by the way, what other family issues do you may have? You know, do you have some concerns about health? And trying to kind of get a big picture of what's going on with these folks, and then kind of come up with a game plan, and try to help them find a job, try to help them with their resume, try to help them with interviewing skills, with an apprenticeship program if that's the case, or pointing them in the direction of helping them with education and using the GI Bill. We're not looking to replace any services that are out there because there's an amazing network of veterans organizations and other organizations that are doing various different things. But what we're trying to do is extend that network and be that sort of warm handoff, that teammate who sponsors that person from active duty back home. And when I sat down and first got involved with Boots to Roots, Dave called me and he asked me if I'd be involved with it. And of course, as soon as I heard about what they were doing, I said absolutely. And I was in the middle of doing a job search at the time myself. And you know, I've spent 24 years taking care of troops, and that's a passion of mine. And you know, Boots to Roots gives us an opportunity to continue that and help them in a critical time as they transition and no longer have that support system that they had while they were in the service. And so what Boots to Roots is really focusing on is our mission is bridge the gap from serving our country to strengthening Maine communities. And that gap that we're really talking about is reaching out to them while they're still on active duty, because no one's doing that right now. And so when they go through a transition assistance program, typically, when, say, for instance, you're in Virginia and you're separating from the Army, and you get signed up for a few-day class, which is called transition assistance, and you
Right.
go to your transition assistance class and you learn about VA benefits, and there's some talk about resumes, and there's some talk about interviewing,
Oh, yeah.
and they do all this preparatory work, and it's a good program.
It is.
But a couple of the places that are challenging with that program are, number one, folks are going through that program before they separate, so there's a lot of things going through their mind.
Yeah.
Moving, family relocation,
Right.
getting done with their job and so forth. So people listen, they're taking notes, but some stuff doesn't sort of stick with you right away through the transition. The other thing is a lot of the folks that they bring in from different employment agencies and companies and so forth are from that local area. So you're going through a transition assistance program, but you're not really connected into what's going on in Maine per se if you're coming back to Maine. So what we're trying to do is reach out to the folks who are on active duty to give them our information, to have them contact us before they come back. This doesn't guarantee we're going to be able to get them a job right away when they hit the ground, but we're going to minimize some of that risk and really make the chance better that they're going to be able to be better prepared when they get back.
How is the contact made between the organization you're with on this and anybody that's transitioning out?
Right, so that's what we're working on right now.
Okay.
One of the things, obviously, is social media, Facebook page, website, word of mouth, getting that word out. But we've reached out to the transition offices for all the services. The Army, the Marines, the Navy, and the Coast Guard right now. I've had a personal conversation with their transition program policy leads, and they were all very supportive, and they were great. And they said there's a bunch of different programs in different states similar to what Boots to Roots is trying to do.
Yeah.
And the Air Force, I'm still coordinating with one of the folks from the Air Force to get in touch with them. But what we've done is we sent them a letter explaining what Boots to Roots' mission was. And we said that really the request was to this headquarters transition office, can you get these letters out to all of your field transition offices at the different bases? When somebody signs up for a transition assistance program, typically they'll put down where they're planning to go,
Okay.
i.e. what state they're going to relocate to or where they're planning to relocate. So our simple request to them was, if you know of somebody who's thinking about moving to Maine or is going to relocate after they separate or retire to Maine, please give them our website.
So you're only situated here in Maine?
We're only in Maine. This is just for Maine. And we're very small. We're just starting out.
Okay.
But interestingly, right after, and everybody's been very, very helpful with that. And about a week and a half after I sent, or I talked to the Coast Guard transition lead, I got an email on our Boots to Roots email from a young coastie who is planning to separate this fall. And I asked him, how did you hear about us? And he said his transition office sent him an email with our website.
Beautiful.
So that's good
That's
affirmation
good.
that process can indeed work. And so
Right.
we're trying to get our word out. I talked to the Marine for Life program. They have a great program. They have a Northeast regional office in Massachusetts, and I asked them who they were dealing with in Maine right now, and nobody really directly. And I said, well, let Boots to Roots be the person
Be
that
the
you
contact for
do
you.
a warm handoff
That's great.
in Maine.
Yeah.
And so we're working right now with an Army active duty warrant officer who's out in Alabama. We're working with 2 Navy folks in Virginia. The coastie is actually back in Maine already, but not separated yet. And an Air Force person who is down in Virginia as well. And we're on the phone. I send them emails from the career centers. I mentioned all these other organizations
Right.
that are out there. The Department of Labor career centers are fantastic, and I've met a lot of the different folks who work at those career centers. They've provided us with resume help. They provide us with information on jobs, and there's a lot of websites out there. There's a lot of different job links and so forth. But there's a gentleman up at the Career Center in Brunswick who does an amazing job of cutting and pasting different job postings on a daily basis, and he sends out what he calls a job bundle. And so he sends that to me, and I send that out to the folks we're working with right now. And so they're going through those jobs as they're still on active duty, going through those jobs, seeing kind of if there's anything in there they think they might be interested in. And then when they do, and they tell me that, now I can do the legwork for them while they're still on active duty, talking to the Career Center, asking them first, have you talked with these employers? Do you have a point of contact there? What do you know about this company? You know, do you know if they're
doing the go-between?
And and just trying to lay that groundwork, and then and hopefully also meeting with some direct employers, HRs, because I'd like them to know what we're doing, what we're trying to do, so we can have a personal contact. Again, I know it's not a guarantee, but any way that we can try to facilitate a conversation, getting a resume to somebody, getting an interview, trying to grease the skids for when folks come back so that they don't have a long wait. Because when you get off active duty, I don't care if you're retired after 24 years like me, or you've just been in one 4-year stint, and you come back, it's really hard to reintegrate. And there's a lot of great websites out there. There's a lot of great information out there. But a lot of folks don't know where to start. What's the right place to start? Even though the transition program said, contact the Career Center in your state, or contact so-and-so in your state, it can be overwhelming.
It can.
I will put a plug in here. The Maine Bureau of Veterans Services has just revamped their website. It's very intuitive. It leads you through. There's different categories on the left-hand side. Are you a veteran? Are you a family member? You know, various different questions, and then you click on that, and it will lead you through a very intuitive process to try to find the right link and the right information. So they've done a good job, and they're trying to hire a couple more outreach specialists. And so my hat's off to them. They've got a great website. But still, what Boots to Roots is trying to do is to be able to establish that relationship with somebody. And now, rather than just give them an 800 number or a link, ideally, we in Boots to Roots and our volunteer, we've already met the people that we are referring our folks to.
Now, all this work going on, you're all volunteers, aren't you?
At this moment, we are, yes.
Moment. Do you foresee anything to change as far in the future, where there would be some monetary?
Well, we are right now, all of our paperwork is in for nonprofit status, we're waiting, or tax exempt status, we're waiting to hear back from the IRS for our IRS listing. So we can operate as a 501c3 right now, but we don't actually have our IRS listing yet. So we're waiting for that back. We're trying to build the legs under Boots to Roots right now. Put all the processes in place, do the networking, get the contacts, build the volunteer force and the training. Get a few successful stories through, some folks through the program, get them successful, and then see
everybody's retired. Everybody's retired in what you're in, so everybody's getting money. I mean, it's not like...
No. So
you know what I mean?
So Dave Hickey and John Manganello are on the board right now, and they still do Boots to Roots stuff, but they have full-time jobs.
That's what
so
I mean.
I'm the only person working full-time right now on Boots to Roots. Again, we're in. This is a building year for us.
I'm just wondering how that's going.
Yeah, so we're building the processes, getting all the contacts, and we do have a budget. And we will be doing some fundraising at the end of the summer and into the fall. And eventually, like I said, we would like to be that contact that the folks are reaching out to first. So eventually, we will need additional funding.
When I'm trying to think, what's the word for it? You can get funding through the government or through corporations, and there's a name for that.
You talking about grants?
Yes. There's got to be some grants out there.
Well, right now, like I said, right now we're building that strategy and we're building our program, and we're trying to network with the different agencies that are out there, see what kind of partnerships can be built. Like I said, this is a gap right now. The reaching someone directly on active duty before they come home, to my knowledge in Maine, Boots to Roots is the only one doing that right now, or attempting to do that.
That's good.
And so, but I'm not saying that to say, we're the only ones doing that. What I'm saying is that's one piece of this grand puzzle of taking care of veterans in Maine. There's a network you may or may not heard of called the Maine Military Community Network.
No, I haven't heard that.
There are 10 different regional networks, basically. And it's really a group of folks that get together who are from the Department of Labor Career Centers to the Maine Bureau of Veterans Services to Easter Seals and their veterans program, Goodwill of Northern New England, their veterans program, Pine Tree Legal comes to some of the meetings, the Marine Corps League representatives, we've got the Volunteers of America represented there. Those are just a few, but...
There's one locally.
Yes, York County Maine Military Community Network.
No, there's another one I'm trying to think.
There's one in Portland also.
One with Pam Payer, Heroes.
Oh, that's an organization in itself, right? So that organization probably would be involved with the Maine Military Community Network. It's really anybody who wants to come to these meetings,
because they go look for people that need help also. When people come out, it's not just retirement. It's by the way, is it just people retiring or anybody that's coming out after? Whatever, how much time?
No, it's anyone coming off active duty, separating or retiring.
And that's what
the other thing is, if veterans reach out to us, well, let me go back to the network thing real quick, because I just want to clarify that. The Maine Military Community Network we meet once every 2 months. This is the York County Maine Military Community Network. There's, like I said, there's 9 other regional community networks. I went to the Portland meeting last night.
Did you meet Pam Payer?
No.
You know that name?
I do know the name, but I have not met her yet.
Okay. Go ahead.
But I've heard great things about her.
Yeah, I know her. Okay.
Yeah, I've heard great things about her. So we meet, and all the different agencies are sitting in a circle, and you go around the room and tell kind of who you are, what your agency is, any sort of recent issues or successes that you've had, and then where you could have used help, or where you're asking for help from one of the other agencies, or saying, does anybody in this room know who I can talk to for this, or this is the issue we have. And then we're trying to bring in speakers for different topics. For instance, last meeting we had, the topic was outreach. So we went around the room so everybody knows who the different folks are in the room, what they do, and then we had a couple folks talking about outreach and what efforts are being done with outreach. these other organizations can fit in. And I'll tell you where this network has come in very handy because, we're targeting the folks coming on off active duty, whether they're separating or retiring, it doesn't matter. And ideally, that's who we really would like to have reach out to us so we can make that transition as smoothly as possible, so that we preclude people coming back to Maine, not having reached out to anybody, getting frustrated, being without a job, running out of unemployment, and now bad things start to happen when you don't have that employment. And that integration with the society is very, 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 very critical. But I've had many people reach out to me who have met homeless veterans, who have met a veteran who needs this help or that help or needs to be referred to veterans benefits. And because of this network and because of the folks I've met, I can go down my list and say, oh, I know exactly who can help you in that area, and call them up and hook them up with the person that is in the Maine Military Community Network. And that's one of the beauties of the network is throughout Maine, no matter where we are, if we meet a veteran who needs something, we're going to be able to find the person who can help them.
Have you made any contact with Walter Reed?
Walter Reed, you mean medical center?
Yeah.
No.
I'm just wondering, I mean, they're injured, they come back and they lose limbs, but some of them can still do something. Mm-hmm. And that's why I was thinking of that.
Absolutely.
So I'm just throwing you something.
Yeah.
Because they do come from Walter Reed and they come over here from there.
Absolutely.
And I've run into a couple people that their life's changed, but some of them can still do something. I keep thinking of that, and I'm wondering if that would be a good direction to check on.
Oh, I check into every avenue. Okay. So, anything that we can do to help the veterans.
I'm just throwing it at you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't have to tell you this, you know this, but, veterans are extremely resilient and offer a lot. Not only do they offer experience and,
but
the ability, what's that?
Excuse me. But a lot of them come back with PTSD. It gives them a problem.
Well, I can't. I mean, I'm not a PTS expert.
I know. But I'm just saying. I'm wondering if.
But I will tell you, there's a stigma out there that everybody who comes back with PTS, and that even the people, and that PTS is limiting. It can be, but with treatment, you can be fully functioning. So, I would just ask that people try to control their understanding of what that stigma is that comes back, because
that's another thing. Yes, because you did mention that, and that some employers said that.
Yeah, but there's a lot of great services out there right now.
There are.
To help people through that, and it's just like anything else. You just go through treatment, and there are a lot of people struggling. I'm not going to lie about that.
Oh yeah.
But that doesn't mean because they're struggling, that they can't work.
Exactly. Yeah.
Some can't, but
some can, not all.
But there's.
That's what I was thinking of too. I think it's educating the public or these people that you get to see with these organizations. I think they need to be educated.
Oh, the people in those organizations are probably on the front lines of understanding that. Yeah.
I think that's important, because some of these guys and gals come back, they're really messed up,
Well,
they get really bad, and I hope that we can straighten them out and get them to feel better again.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It just came to my mind. I'm not trying to put you on the spot or anything.
No, it's not my area of expertise, PTS.
Yeah, but
is it out there? Yes. Is it a problem?
Out there.
Yeah.
There's a problem in that. That's all. Yep. And I hope people understand more about what it is.
Well, our veterans that come back, they are, like I said, they're resilient. They know how to work under pressure. They're go-getters. They're used to having an active lifestyle. They're used to doing a lot of things. They're used to taking on a lot of responsibility. And one thing that they run into coming back, though, is when employers will understand that. Employers that are veteran-friendly will understand that veterans have those great skills.
Right.
Not only that, they're great citizens. Most veterans that come back will give you the shirt off their back to help out the community, the neighborhood, the business, whatever it is. But one thing that we're also trying to work on, as I've talked to some of the different industries around here, is that they've said they understand all those great skills that the veterans bring. In some cases, though, there is sort of a gap in the fact that that veteran has not worked in that particular field. You know,
Yeah.
they've got all the credentials. They've got the educational credentials, or they've got the skilled credentials, or the leadership credentials, or the management credentials. But and all those sort of adjectives that go along with it,
Yeah.
but that particular industry experience they're lacking in, and so we're trying to help folks learn how to sell themselves to that industry. How can I make a difference for your
Right.
company?
Yeah.
Why should you hire me? I've got all these experiences and all this leadership experience, but here's why you should consider me for your company. And doing research ahead of time to understand what sort of the issues are at the company, or what sort of problem that you're looking to solve, or that the company's looking to solve, or what they really want that person in that particular job that they're hiring you into, and trying to work with folks to get better at that discussion. Because that's where a lot of folks, not necessarily at the technical level where you've only been in for 4 years, but folks who have been in for 15 plus,
Yeah.
that's the area that most folks are running into problems, is there. So we're trying to do whatever we can to educate ourselves with the
That's it.
employers, and then help our folks get prepared for that.
That's beautiful. That's good. That's really very good in doing what you all are doing and trying to make it better for them. Whoever you can help and put them in a great situation for the rest of their life.
Well, you know, I will also say that, you know, and I went up to the Eggs and Issues breakfast that the Chamber in Portland put on. This was a few weeks ago, and Senator King was the speaker. And he mentioned his top 5 concern areas for Maine. And one of the things he talked about was how our population is aging, and how if you look at somewhere from 45 to 65, you know, and that number is growing. And then you look at 45 to 25, and that number is decreasing over years as you project out. You know, and I've heard this in many different areas that, you know, we're trying to create economic development. We're trying to bring industry to Maine. We need to bring industry to
need it
Maine,
bad.
but we also need to get good, smart workers in Maine,
Yeah.
and attract those brilliant, bright young minds.
Yeah.
And so what Boots to Roots is trying to do is, it kind of fits into that,
It does.
bringing people back, because I've talked to a few people that I know from Maine who, in the military, who have said, well, I would love to go back to Maine. I would love to live in Maine again and go back to Maine,
But I need to
but
work.
I don't think I'm going to be able to get a good job up there,
Right.
because the economy's
Yep.
bad and there's not good jobs. In fact, one friend of mine in the Air Force felt that very same way. I started to send him information on Boots to Roots, and I started to send him the job bundles that the Career Center was sending out.
Right.
And he actually said, well, keep them coming.
Yeah.
He's not going to retire for another year and a half, but he did say that he was actually thinking about it now,
Yeah.
because now he may have some more help in trying to do that. Again, it's no guarantee, but it's a way to also try to work with folks before they come back to help them maybe make the decision to come back to Maine. But we can't do this alone.
No.
We need employers to help us with that as well. But that's another avenue to get very good, qualified, smart, experienced folks into the job force in Maine to make this economy better as well. And so that's where Boots to Roots also fits in, to helping the state of Maine, hence strengthening Maine communities, which is the last part of our mission statement.
And it has a lot to do also with the governor's been trying to do something
Mm-hmm.
for veterans also. And his wife too. They really want to do something for veterans. And the problem that's always been hitting is exactly that. They have a hard time getting businesses to come in because taxes. They put too many taxes on them to come in. They've got to find a way to change that. You know, that's one of the, what would you call it, deterrent? I don't know what you call it, but that's one of the problems that some organizations, big business, tend to shy away, or because, oh, you're going to tax us for this and you're going to tax us for that, and you know, that's a big issue going on. Just to let you know,
Yeah.
that's a problem that Maine is having. I hope they can fix it eventually, pretty soon, but that is a big problem, holding companies away where we need them to come here, you know?
Well, and Boots to Roots is a win-win proposition, really.
Yeah, well,
Because
that's it, yeah.
we're trying to attract those folks to kind of encourage them to come back to Maine by working with them ahead of time, sort of laying that groundwork, saying, hey, I'll be your teammate with you. You know, I'll try to help you network with different organizations. I'll try to help you network with employers, and help your family. I'll try to help you network with a realtor to get a house or whatever you need to do.
Right.
We'll get you in the right place for what you need. And then in turn, if that person decides to come back to Maine, now they're benefiting Maine because now Maine workforce is gaining a highly qualified, motivated, you know, worker citizen, you know, that they wouldn't otherwise have. And
What I think is great that you're with an organization that wants to help veterans. That's the main thing, to help them transcend into a different life. And that means a lot, as far as I'm concerned. That was terrific. And I hope that it gets better and better, and we do get more businesses in the state. That's because we had a lot of problems where, well, I like Trump. Because
you're not going to get me in a political discussion now, are you? Okay, good.
Well, he's for getting corporations, everything back into the country, not running away where they think it's so much cheaper and all that. But I do watch him and I see what's going on. And I feel Maine is a problem too, where we need more to come in. Then, see, they're also having a problem with the colleges. And the kids graduate from college,
And
they
going.
want them to stay here.
Right, it's the
But
same thing.
They don't. They leave the state and they go where there's work.
Right.
You know, there's a problem that direction. So one can help the other. They
Absolutely.
can straighten that out to make things better all around. But I think that's a terrific job that Boots to Roots. It's fantastic. Anything that we can do to help veterans is so important. You know. To help them to come back home.
Well, and we'd also like to make sure that, you know, anybody watching your show today or anybody out in the community who hears about us, if folks hear about somebody who has come back or is coming back, to give them our information, bootstoroots.org or bootstoroots@gmail.com, to be able to reach out to us so that we can try to help them with that transition. Again, there's lots of different places that you can go, and sometimes it's overwhelming. But word of mouth is how we've gotten a lot of folks, and Dave Hickey has helped a tremendous amount of folks. He's really he's a fantastic mentor and really a fantastic guy, and he's really done a lot to help these folks. So. By
That's
word of mouth
important.
is a great thing. We're trying to hit the folks who are currently on active duty. We'll continue to do
That's
that. We'll try to
beautiful.
build that program, but we also, you know, would love to hear from folks if they're back here and hook them up with us.
Because what we have is career centers and everything, but that doesn't happen until they get here.
Right.
What you're doing is reaching out to them before they get out. That's so good, because hopefully they can pass the word on. I don't know what they call these. You know, before you get out, you go all these meetings and
Transition
yeah.
program.
you know, and if they can get the word that you all exist and are here for them, that's terrific.
Well, and it buys you some time as well, because when I'm talking on the phone to these folks, I can send them websites. I sent them the new Maine Military Community, or excuse me, the Maine Bureau of Veteran Services website. Can send them information on different organizations, for instance, Team Red, White, and Blue, and other organizations that are trying to get veterans together to do, you know, social and athletic events together. And that's part of the integration. That's part of the networking. And some of these organizations bring community and veterans together.
You tell them about schools that are available. Do you do that too? Yeah.
And so I take that information that's out there from the Maine Military Community Network, and I funnel that to the folks who are on active duty. So, so they already kind of know some of the organizations that are out there, and and they can ask us any question that they have. And you know, I'm not a smart woman. I probably don't have the answer, but I will find out the person. I'll find the person who does, though, and hook them up with that person. So
yeah, that's good. Yeah, that's good.
It buys them time.
How long have you been doing this?
I just started doing Boots to Roots in March.
March, really? Last March?
This past March. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
So we're building this thing from the ground up. So there's a lot of moving parts.
It's like it's moving along. It sounds like it's really moving along.
Well, we're getting the word out, and like I said, there's a great group of folks who we're working with, who we can call at any time.
You know, I didn't think of giving them the number, how to contact, put it on the screen. But how would they be able to contact you or somebody in Boots to Roots? Is there a phone number they can go through?
The best way to contact us is our email account.
Okay.
bootstorootz@gmail.com. That's BOOTS, the number 2, ROOTS@gmail.com.
Okay.
That's the best way to get in touch with us.
Okay.
There is a page that you can fill out an information sheet. Excuse me, that's our email. If you email me, I check it all the time. I will give a call after I get that email.
Okay.
And the reason I say email versus phone is that I'm on the road a lot, so it's easier for me to get the email, because the only way I can network with all these folks is to drive around the state of Maine, which is a lovely state. I've seen a lot of things.
I bet. Yeah. It really is nice. Wow, that's big. You're the one that drives around.
Well, right now. We're just starting. We're just starting.
Yeah. And it started when?
Well, Dave Hickey founded Boots to Roots in 2014.
2014.
And so he's been doing the Boots to Roots work for quite some time, but had not sort of formalized hadn't formalized the organization as a 501c3. He'd been working on that and helping folks out. We had to sort of pull the team together.
Okay.
And then we started moving forward in that direction about March time. Pardon me, about March time frame.
Okay, good. It sounds great. Boots to Roots.
Boots to Roots.
BootsToRoots.org?
BootsToRoots.org is the website.
Okay, that's good. They can look at the website.
Absolutely.
And see BootsToRoots.org.
BootsToRoots.org, you got it.
I keep repeating it to make sure somebody gets it.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Well,
you are a very interesting lady. You've done a lot of things. I can't imagine what it was like to fly that bomber, but
it was an honor.
Oh, it's quite a thing, you know. Yeah, you did all that. Wow. Well, thank you very much for coming, my dear.
Thank you for having me, Dick. I sure appreciate it.
I appreciate it too, because there's another organization that can try to help these veterans. They need the help.
Absolutely.
That is so important.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much for watching.
Thank you.
Bye-bye for now. And